I never thought my mother was capable of hiding something from me. She always seemed so transparent, almost predictable. She was the type of person who made it a point to say she didn't need all that internet nonsense and always claimed the world was getting sick from too much exposure. She never had Instagram, never sent a text message in her life. At least that's what I believed. Until a month ago, everything changed. I was scrolling through my feed mindlessly when a viral video caught my attention. An influencer called the Faceless Woman, a figure shrouded in mystery, who never shows her face and speaks with a voice so calm and intense it gives you chills. The setting was simple, a living room with low lighting, a bookshelf in the background. The moment I heard the first sentence, a chill ran down my spine. That voice, it was identical to my mother's. Identical. But that wasn't all. In the second video I watched, something made me hold my breath. A detail behind her. The bookshelf. I knew that bookshelf. I knew every book, every object, because it was the bookshelf from our living room. My entire body froze. I watched more videos, and each one seemed to give me more proof, more signs. A blue vase on the table. The beige curtains. The worn armchair in the corner, where my mother always reads her old books. Everything there screamed that it was our house. For a moment, I thought it might be an absurd coincidence. I wanted to believe someone was using similar settings. But the more I watched, the more impossible it became to deny. And the craziest part of it all is that the Faceless Woman had over 2 million followers. In the comments, people called her the voice of healing, the woman who saved my life. I didn't know what to feel. Fear? Anger? Pride? What scared me was the idea that she had created an entire secret life inside our own house, and I had never suspected anything. Why didn't she ever tell me anything? Who really is the woman I grew up with? Have you ever discovered something about someone that completely changed how you see them? Tell me in the comments. I need to know if I'm the only one who feels this way. My mother was always a woman who was hard to figure out. Not because she was cold or distant, but because she had that kind of silence that weighs heavy in the air. She spoke little about herself, almost nothing about the past, as if her life had started the day I was born. I grew up accustomed to hearing vague answers when I asked about her youth. Oh, that doesn't matter anymore, or that's all behind me now. She's lived with me forever, in the same house with white walls and the smell of old wood. A house that holds echoes of our history, the sound of windows creaking on windy nights, the noise of floorboards that creak when someone walks barefoot, and the aroma of coffee that seems soaked into the corners of the kitchen. It was our refuge, the place where I believed nothing could surprise me. My routine with her was always predictable. We'd wake up early, have coffee together, she always in silence, stirring sugar in her cup with that distant look. Sometimes I thought she wanted to tell me something, but gave up halfway through. Dinner was similar. The TV on at low volume, her pretending interest in some show, and me trying to bring up topics that never went very far. We weren't a perfect family, but I never imagined there was a secret world there, hidden in the same hallways I walked through every day. And maybe, thinking about it, there were always signs, I just didn't know how to see them. In recent months, I noticed she was more reclusive. She closed her bedroom door more often, and sometimes I'd hear her talking to herself, as if she were rehearsing something. Whenever I entered suddenly, she'd give a strange smile and change the subject. Once, when I came home early, I heard a recording click coming from the living room. When I went in, she was just sitting in the armchair, hands in her lap, as if she hadn't done anything. Now, looking back, it all makes sense. The different lighting in the living room, the books organized differently, the way she got nervous when I touched her laptop. I just didn't know she was transforming into someone else, in front of millions of eyes that weren't mine. And the hardest thing to accept is that this other person seems to be more loved than the woman I know. That night, when I realized the room where the Faceless Woman filmed was ours, the feeling was like the ground had crumbled beneath my feet. Every video I watched was a piece of a puzzle I didn't know existed. But what left me most unsettled wasn't just the setting details or the voice identical to my mother's. It was the content of what she said. The Faceless Woman spoke of deep pain, of secrets no one should know, of new beginnings that only emerge after a part of you dies. But her stories went beyond the obvious. She told strange theories, mixed dark philosophy with personal accounts that sounded almost like confessions. In one of the most watched videos, she talked about an invisible pact that people make with the world when they decide to disappear to be reborn in another life. In another, she said that true freedom only exists when you become no one, a shadow that escapes the eyes and voices that imprison you. I didn't recognize those words coming from the mouth of the woman who raised me. My mother had always been practical, down to earth, full of fears and insecurities, but never someone who spoke like that. It was as if the faceless woman was a character built in a parallel universe, someone who existed inside her, but didn't belong to the real world I knew. I started noticing small, unsettling details around the house. In the books she left scattered around, one of them about occultism and mysticism with notes in the margins, another, an old diary full of fragments of thoughts that mixed hope and despair. She wrote phrases like, "If you disappear, it's not the end. It's the chance to start from zero. Some masks don't protect, they imprison." The strange thing is that she seemed to be speaking to me and to the world at the same time. It was as if there were two women inside that house, the silent and cautious mother I knew, and hidden behind the silver mask, the faceless woman, a voice that promised healing and freedom, but carried a mystery too dark to decipher. This division began to affect our relationship. I wanted to ask about those stories, but I was afraid of what I'd hear. I wanted to understand who this person was who spoke of pacts and rebirths, but I was also afraid of the answer. And then came the anonymous messages that started appearing on my Instagram. Stop looking. Your mother isn't who you think. The truth is hidden behind the mask. Who were these people? Friends of hers? Fans of the faceless woman? Or someone trying to scare me? That night, I found her sitting in the living room armchair, the silver mask on her face, looking at the camera with that hypnotic voice. Sometimes, what we need most is to disappear so healing can begin. But not everyone is ready to accept that. She was speaking to her audience, but I knew it was for me. And there, in that moment, the line between the woman who raised me and the character she embodied dissolved completely. That was the breaking point. After weeks of heavy silence, hidden observations, and anonymous messages that haunted me at the most unexpected moments, I decided I needed to confront my mother. I couldn't live anymore with the shadow of that woman who spoke to millions while hiding her face and her truth at home. It was a cold night. The wind hit the windows as if trying to warn that something was about to happen. I called her to the living room, and she came with the calm expression she always tried to maintain, the social mask she wore with me intact. But I could see the discreet tremor in her hands, the way her gaze fled. "Mom," I began, my voice trembling, "I know about the faceless woman." She said nothing, just stared at me with that sad smile, almost resigned. "Why do you hide this from me?" I insisted, my chest tight. Why create an entire life pretending to be someone else? She got up slowly, and, for the first time in a long time, the house fell into absolute silence. Then, she took off the silver mask she always wore in the videos, and in that instant, something that seemed frozen for years began to move inside her. Because the person I was died, she spoke quietly, almost like a secret. And the person you know isn't enough anymore. I wanted to scream, to ask what pain was so great that it needed to be hidden behind that mask. But the words got stuck in my throat. That night, between tears and whispers, she told me pieces of her story. A career that crumbled, loves that were lost, traumas that were never spoken aloud. All wrapped in a veil of silence that she used to protect not only herself, but also me. But along with the confession came something I didn't expect, a revelation that turned everything into a surreal nightmare. She began talking about voices, presences she felt inside the house, of a weight that grew as the videos gained more followers. She said it wasn't just her speaking, but something that took over the faceless woman. "Sometimes I'm not me," she said, her eyes glazed over. "It's like someone else is here, using my voice, my story." The air became thick, as if the house was swallowing our words. I wanted to believe it was just fear, stress, guilt, but there was a dark truth there, something that couldn't be explained. That same night, reality began to crumble. I heard footsteps in the hallway, even knowing it was just the two of us. The clock seemed to speed up and then stop, as if time was playing tricks on us. My vision became blurry, flashes of images, the mask falling to the floor, an indistinct figure in the background of the room, a whispered laugh that didn't come from her. I knew this could be madness, but I couldn't shake the feeling that we were on the edge of something much bigger than a secret or a lie. The people who were once just followers became shadows that invaded our thoughts, demanding something no one could define. Friends disappeared, family members distanced themselves, as if they were afraid of what that mask represented. One dawn, my mother asked for help. She said she needed to disappear, that the only way to save herself was to vanish for good. What came next was a whirlwind of events no one expected, a hospitalization, a strange ritual in the house, voices that only I seemed to hear. In the middle of this chaos, I found myself trapped between love and fear, between the woman I had created in my mind and the stranger the mask had created. And the question that won't let me sleep is this: who was, after all, that woman? The mother I loved, the character she created, or something that escaped our control? After everything, what remains is a mixture of love, fear, and a confusion that consumes me from within. My mother, that silent woman who taught me the value of silence, now inhabits a universe where reality and fantasy intertwine, a place I can barely reach, let alone understand. I no longer know if the mask she wore was to hide the pain or to hide the truth. If that calm and hypnotic voice that spoke to millions was a form of healing, or a trapped scream that no one could hear. If the woman who raised me disappeared forever, or if she still exists, lost among the shadows of her own creation. I spent sleepless nights trying to put together the pieces I was given, loose fragments of stories, pieces of secrets, echoes of a life that seemed to split in half. And with every answer I find, more questions arise. Was I the villain in this story? Did I have any other choice but to try to discover the truth? Is it possible to know someone completely when that person doesn't want to be found? I find myself thinking that, deep down, aren't we all masks, versions of ourselves that we show the world to hide what we really feel? But what happens when these masks become more real than our own skin? When they take over our essence and transform us into strangers to those we love most? I don't know what's going to happen now. If my mother will be able to find peace, or if she's trapped forever in this game of appearances and mysteries. If the faceless woman will disappear, or continue speaking to those millions who await her. And me? I'm still here, trying to understand what is truth and what is illusion. Because, in the end, maybe that's the only thing we have, doubt. The doubt that corrodes, that bothers, that forces us to look inside and question everything. And you? Have you ever found yourself trapped between what you feel and what others expect? Have you ever loved someone and, even so, felt like you never really knew them? Was I the villain here? I really want to know your opinion. Leave your comment and tell me what you would do if you were in my place. Because maybe the greatest truth of the story is this: sometimes what saves us can also be what destroys us.